This is Beyond with Heather Tesch, where we examine near-death experiences and life itself, hopefully making this life a little better. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. And Rev Bill McDonald, thank you so much for joining me again.
Well, it feels like we're practically neighbors now that we talk so often. With you in Atlanta and me out here in California.
It is great talking to you. In the past, we've covered your 3 near-death experiences. And if folks want to listen to those, we will have a link to each one in the description. But I want to talk about another pretty amazing experience you had, and maybe your most amazing experience. And that was the rainbow body experience.
Yeah, actually, the most profound, using that term, like what has changed me, because I talked earlier someplace, or at least in private with you, that all these experiences, it's always been me and it hasn't really changed me. But the rainbow body experience, that opened the cosmos to me. That opened my consciousness and my thinking beyond what I thought was pretty spectacularly, neat already, to places where I realized I don't know a damn thing. It's like, yeah, Bill, you really thought you knew everything. And then you have an experience that's so expansive and so inwardly huge that there is no vocabulary to describe it. There's no words or books or videos that can totally transcribe what took place, because it dealt with feelings and senses that we're not even aware we have. You got hearing, seeing, all that stuff, right? Touch and feel. But this dealt with things that wasn't even a part of them. So there's other senses beyond the 5 senses. It dealt with knowing at a level not human and very divine. It dealt with seeing, knowing, being, experiencing, and surrendering to love. This thing happened my first decade of marriage. I think the first 4 or 5 years of my marriage. I've been married 54 years. So my children are retired, so it kind of gives you an idea. It was a long time ago. But I've been picking this apart, spiritually, picking it apart, looking at the bones and putting it together for over 40 years. And it's still unexplored territory, undiscovered territory, as Shakespeare would say. So with that introduction, let me talk first. We call it a rainbow body, but when this happened, I had no clue what a rainbow body was. Because some people that are watching this, they're smarter than me, of course. They read books and stuff, and I didn't know. I mean, people in Tibet talk about rainbow body when the Lama dies, the head of some great yogi dies, his body actually loses weight. A little bit of weight they can actually measure, whereas spirit leaves. But the people will see actually like a rainbow, like a filament of light go whoosh, like just zap out of his body. And it's said that these great ones leave in a rainbow. When they're enlightened, they leave in this rainbow body. Rare, that's rare. Rarer yet is to have a leaving of the physical body in a rainbow without physically dying. In other words, you leave and you come back. That is a round trip that is, I've not read of any, but I know there must be. Okay? So it's not a one and done with me. I'm sure if it happened to me, it's happened to others. But it's something that is totally out there. All right. So when this first happened to me, I didn't have the vocabulary of calling it a rainbow body. I just figured I was riding a rainbow. I didn't know. It was unique. It was the same experience, but it's taken on different meaning. So this one night I was meditating and I was listening to these chants, and not just listening, but absorbing them and feeling the devotion of the singers or the music. It doesn't matter if it's just music or singing. And you feel that, especially Amazing Grace. I mean, I could go into tears. People listen to that. It affects everybody. All right. So I'm listening to chants, yoga from the yoga album I had. So there were yogi chants. So they were at a certain sacred level, frequency. And I just got so overwhelmed with that. So my meditation went real. Meditation, I happened to keep pulling myself back. It was like, wow, I'm just out of here, right? So I get up, walk upstairs. It's the end of the day. It's about midnight. I have sitting on my, oh, there it is right there. I don't know if you can see that. Sitting, the same exact picture, sitting on my nightstand. This is the photo from the last moments of Paramahansa Yogananda's life. It's called The Last Photo, I think. It was taken just before he died. So I'm staring at this. Now, I teach Christians an old form of monastic meditation that monks in monasteries used to do. They would take a picture of Jesus. Not a photo, kids. No autograph photos. This is a picture somebody was drawn or painted. They take a picture of Jesus in a dark room with a candle, and then they would sit, thinking about nothing, not their problems. They just focus on the face, and then they just focus on the eyes of Jesus. And I teach people how to do this. I don't want no yoga meditation. I don't want no mantras. I said, great. You're going to focus on Jesus. Okay, I can do that. And no mantra. You're going to use this silent prayer in your mind. You're just going to keep saying, I love you, Jesus. Oh, I can do that. But it's not a mantra. Anyway, so I go to bed at night, and that's sitting there, and I just start staring at it. And it's Paramahansa Yogananda. And I just go, I love you, Guru. I love you. And I'm just thinking that. And I'm looking at the eyes, and the eyes are looking at me. I mean, it's alive, right? The face. And all of a sudden, boom, I'm out of my body. Not just out of my body. I'm zooming faster than the speed of light. There is something faster than the speed of light. Consciousness. Okay? You think yourself a trillion miles away, you are. Right? It's just, it was like, remember Star Trek, the old Star Trek with Captain Kirk, right? And warp speed, Scotty. All right, and all of a sudden you see these lights, the stars go by. It was like that. It was like. Now, my first impressions on this experience was that I was traveling. And so for about 10 years, I thought I was traveling someplace because I was just, everything was whoosh. And then about 20 some years later, I had a dream. And I realized, well, if I was traveling, right, I wouldn't be passing stars every direction. It's like every direction things are happening. It wasn't just, in other words, if you're traveling, you're going someplace. But if your consciousness is expanding, you're not traveling anyway. You're just It's expansion and expanding because every direction was closer. Every direction was me, was the consciousness that was me. The shared consciousness of all that was with me. Now, here's what gets crazy. In this experience, I realize as I reflect, I feel, I sense, I know that I'm this rainbow. It's like this giant rainbow shooting out into the cosmos. I'm this rainbow, this filament of light. I'm just shooting through the, whatever you want to call it, the other world, the inner world. And I realize that there's no such thing as alone. You can never be alone. But there's other smaller consciousness. There's this one conscious. But then there's the ego, that identifies with a name, a place, and a history, and its life story and reincarnation and birth and death. That there's still a part of that, even at the rainbow level, because you have a rainbow body. Anytime you have a body, okay, anytime you have a body, there's still that ego story connection. There's still that I am something. I have a memory of who I was. There's still that belief that they're separate. That's how close it is between separation from the oneness. This is like that last separation, right? Not quite, but you still know. And you have all these fellow travelers with you, sharing this rainbow body experience. You're all functioning as one unit. It's like the cell on this finger doesn't realize that it's a whole hand. The whole hand doesn't realize it's a whole body, right? The cell thinks, I'm the cell, right? This finger thinks it's the finger, not the hand. So it was the same kind of thing. It was like this rainbow body, which is no other way to say it, knew everything. There was no beginning. There was no end. There was no, when I say no time, I mean no time. But in the essence of the experience, and I've said this before, people don't understand it, I knew I was transversing about 200 to 300 million years. Not billions, but 100, 200 or 300 million. That's all I was looking at. I was kind of looking at it all as one vista, just one horizon line. In other words, as the title of my new book suggests, I still remember tomorrow. You could also remember yesterday, yesterdays, before even then, because it's all, you're here, and it's wherever you want to focus. There it is, unfolded. It's all unfolded. It's already there. And so this rainbow body was transversing this cosmic dimension, doing what it was purposed for. And what it was purposed for, this group, was to raise the spiritual awareness of not just the earth, but other places in this thing. And that the spirits, the souls, the light beings, the whatever that's there, their job was to periodically leave the rainbow body, go to one of these places, teach people love, teach people to evolve. They would go there, they would feel pain, they would feel suffering, they would not remember they were part of the rainbow until they needed to. And then they would return, and they'd be supported by the people in this rainbow, with all that energy be supporting them while they're out of the rainbow. There were smaller groups doing different lower energy things. You had a group that was working with great music, helping people like Mozart and, I don't know, John Lennon or whatever, music, right? You had people that were working on math and science, and you had these other celestial beings that were working on philosophy and politics of the cosmos, trying to evolve people. And these great beings would come in, and these geniuses like Leonardo da Vinci come in and teach people all this stuff. So they all had their place. But this rainbow body's place was different. This rainbow body was strictly spiritual evolution. And it was all volunteer, with either a sentenced for eternity, if you want to look at it that way, to totally always keep coming back, never leaving the wheel of karma. That's why there's still a rainbow body, because they have to have an essence of an I-ness to continue to do the work. When they totally lose that, it's God again. So it's like, so I am traveling in this. I feel and see and hear colors that there's more colors in the rainbow than one knows. It's like, that's not at all. There's more different frequencies. There's colors all over the place, right? But it's like you absorb sound, you absorb colors, and there's this one permeating, that's the wrong word I'm looking for, permeating sound in the creative cosmos. I'll use that. It's another dimension. I don't know what it is. Okay. But there's one prevailing sound that reverberates. Now, in the ancients, they weren't sure on how to sound it out. So the Christians come up with, oh man. Some others are slightly different versions of that. And then in India, it's Om, but there's this sound that sounds like Om. And it vibrates at such a high frequency. But when you really listen fully to the sound, it's the sound of love. And you hear love, you feel love, you taste love, you absorb love, you become love. There is nothing else. The cosmos disappears. It's just love. Everything broken down is just love. Light, sound, vibration, it's all love. It's just frequencies. And everybody is trying to express love. Even the people that have hate and anger, they're really trying to express love in a perverted way. They're on the wrong side of the moon. They just haven't found the light yet. But ultimately, their desire is to feel better. Their desire is to make a better family. So even people that seem evil, I tell people do evil. People think evil. But nobody is created evil. Okay? All you got to do is wake up. Now you can try to kill all these people off, condemn them, torture them, do whatever you want to do, all these evil people. Ultimately, they all wake up when they've learned their lessons. And unfortunately, that's usually through pain and suffering, which are the greatest teachers. Pain and suffering are not your enemy. They're teachers on this earth plane. And most people can't stand pain. And they suffer, they complain. Well, once you realize that pain is a teacher, then you don't focus so much on it. Then you look at, well, what's the cause of the pain? Even if it's not apparent, it's always relative to past actions, including your thoughts, your desires, your wishes, actions, karma, intentions. All this kind of mixes into it. So nobody has bad luck or bad fate. Everything is created. Everything. So if you have an interesting life, you've created it. But I think all lives are interesting. It's just a matter of how serious you want to deal with it. So anyways, I'm traveling around, and like I said, there's no time, but I'm fully immersed in this. Like, this is my job. And I know that eventually my time comes and I go out and inhabit. Apparently I'm stuck on the earth. Apparently it seems to be my beat. Yeah, you're beat. You take care of the earth. Nobody else wants it. The earth is pretty low. This is hell. I mean, this is not a good place to be. It's a lot of pain, suffering here. All right. So I'm just zipping along, and all of a sudden, I have a remembrance. I remember my wife, and I had 2 children. And that's all it took. I just remember my wife and 2 children. I remembered my I-ness fully. And it was, boom, 2,000 pounds of body on the bed, just like I fell into this. I went from this featherweight, nothing, filament of rainbow, just laying on this bed, bawling like a baby. My wife wakes up, and the tears are just rolling down. I love my wife, I love my children, but I didn't want to leave. But it was me remembering I had that life, I had that responsibility, I had that commitment. It brought me instantaneously back. While I was traveling around, I was traveling around, existing for all that time. Okay? So by remembering the I-ness, I chose to focus on that place in the time frame of now. And it hurt coming back. And I saw things, I learned things, which if you ask questions, maybe they'll come up or not, I don't know. But there was so much information I had. Talk about an overload. I mean, it was so much.
So what was that information? And is it something that Reverend Bill can share with us? Well, we'll take that into part 2, so you can find out there. And for those of you that have made it this far, thank you so much. I always like it when you put made it in the comments, but also I'd love to have you put in the comments your thoughts on this, because we often talk about near-death experiences. And then sometimes we go into other territory like this one, where it's a meditation experience. And this one is definitely very different. So it may be a little too out there for some of you, but for some others, this may be right up your alley. So I would just love to hear your thoughts on what you think. And also, if you don't mind, if you could give this a like, I appreciate that. By the way, if you want to hear more from Reverend Bill, I did have some great episodes with him where we talked about his near-death experiences. And I'll put links to those in the description. And then also, you can always go to my playlist. There are lots of episodes there, and you can just scroll down and you can look for Reverend Bill. So thank you, everybody, once again for being here today. And I do hope that you'll join me in part 2. Thanks for joining me on Beyond with Heather Tesch. Please add comments and questions you'd like future guests to answer. Also, if you liked what you heard, please hit the thumbs up button and subscribe. That'll help keep this podcast going. You can also go to Beyond with Heather Tesch to look for more episodes.